a nightmare scenario that destroyed a family, a sinister force that drove a mother to insanity, and the daughter who stood her ground against the evils corrupting a family. In the video today, we'll be revisiting that house from hell. After the last episode, I'll bet you're thinking it couldn't be any worse than the last stories from there. Guess again. Now that I've described how regular occurrences were in the house, it will be easier to explain other things that began to happen, and to understand why I reacted the way that I did. A few folks have asked me to keep making entries, and it will only get weirder from here. I'm not asking you to believe me. This is exactly what happened to me, my husband, and my ex-family. The following account is the very first time I had actually seen one of the things that haunted Hell House. Other than shadows and seeing figures in my peripheral vision that promptly ran when I turned to look at them straight on, I had never actually gotten a good look at these things without them moving. I think they do not want to be seen, unless they choose to be. I was 21 and in nursing school. I had some belief in hauntings because physiologically, our eyes can only see a portion of the light spectrum. I also was very interested in quantum physics, so I chalked it up to something that was alive and perhaps interdimensional, or some cluster of particles with consciousness we didn't understand yet. They seemed to feed off of energy, were clearly capable of killing insects and animals, and seemed to have a consciousness because certain ones felt angry and others felt sad. They also seemed to not want to be seen unless they chose to be. That is a very difficult thing to explain, but the best that I can do with the vocabulary that I currently have. One night, my husband and I were in my room at my parents' house. This was right before I moved out. We were laying in bed, talking and looking up at the ceiling. Then my husband blurts out,
"Did you find black paint in the corner by the ceiling?"
I said, "There's no way I could reach that. I'm only 5 feet tall." I looked where he was pointing, and sure enough, there was something in the top corner of my room, also touching the ceiling. It was the blackest black I had ever seen in my life. I've never seen anything blacker since, outside of these shadow things. I gasped and said, "What is that?" I looked over at my husband, and he was there frozen in the darkness with a horrified look on his face. I didn't put anything up there. I looked back, and the thing was gone. He said,
"Did you see it crawl across the wall?"
I just looked at him, baffled because I had only seen a black smoky 3D blob, and I told him so. He said that it began crawling across my wall on all fours, and then bent its head back awkwardly to look at my husband. My husband said that it had a porcelain mask for a face. He said that it was scared, or we had startled it. I did not feel its sadness. Rather, I had a deep feeling that it was evil and pretending to be sad. I did not trust it one bit. At that time, I hadn't realised that it was biting, scratching, pinching, choking me, like I mentioned in my last post. Looking back now, I think they were trying to gaslight me into thinking I was schizophrenic, because at first, that's exactly what I thought was going on. I was 21 also, and many people start presenting with more symptoms at that age. Anyway, I digress. After that night, I would see it float in front of the polka dots I had drawn on my wall in glow-in-the-dark paint. I began seeing it much more frequently. This presence was not similar to that one presence I mentioned in my other posts. Then, I truly believe, it began following me everywhere I went. I began losing friends because I could feel it show up at my friends' houses. Some of them thought it was me that was weird. It was humiliating to be seen as creepy to people you knew for a long time. Other people blamed their houses. Sometimes things would move and you could feel cold spots at my friends' houses when I would visit. That was abnormal for them. At the time, I thought I could just feel things and perceive them just like many other people can. A coincidence, I suppose. I caught on to it following me pretty quickly after I began losing a bunch of friends. I am imperfect, and the chaos going on with my family egging on crappy behaviour on my behalf is also absolutely a possibility. I will not blame whatever it was. It just egged things on like it did with my biological mother. I am also at fault. I have no proof, but my intuition says that it would pay my friends a visit to scare them after I hung out with them. That way they would associate me, consciously or subconsciously, I have no idea, with something creepy or dark. Regardless of what my explanation was, it worked. Many would abruptly stop talking to me. It broke my heart many times over. What was weird is that it seemed like I was losing time. I would show up places and wouldn't be entirely sure how I got there. Sometimes my eyes would go dark when people spoke to me, and when I came around, they would look at me with the deepest concern on their faces. Those were the ones that typically would stop talking to me altogether and not respond to my messages. I began isolating myself besides my husband because I didn't know if it was contagious. And I didn't want it to hurt anyone that I loved and cared about. I felt contaminated, dirty, and I began spiraling down a path of profound sadness. I was so afraid it would do to others what it was doing to me. It also seemed to feed off my fear and sadness. Hopelessness began setting in. I made an appointment with a psychiatrist. He cleared me of all serious mental health issues. I was devastated. I was hoping a diagnosis would mean a way out. I could stop myself seeing, feeling it, get therapy, finish school and go on with my life. He runs the neuroscience department and is a good friend of mine to this day. I trust that he would have been able to find something. He also teaches medical school. With the missing time, losing my friends, and not able to get them to leave me alone, I began spiraling down to rock bottom. Imagine blaming yourself for all the darkness coming into your life, a darkness controlled by some other entity. I do agree that these may be some sort of interdimensional beings, but I do not agree that our poster blames herself for the loss of friends. This malevolent entity is to blame. We will go deeper into this rabbit hole in part 4. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up below and subscribe for new videos twice a week. And as always, thank you for watching, and remember, it's always scarier when it's real. Good night.